Shalom Aleichem. Hello, everybody. I'm coming to continue the first Aliyah. This is part 3 of the first Aliyah in Vayikra with teachings of the Talmud on the Chumash. All right, we are in verse 8. I'm going to end in verse 13. All right. Verse 8 is right here. Let's read verse 8. The sons of Aaron the Kohanim shall arrange the pieces, the head and the fats, on the wood that is on the fire, that is on the Mizbeach. Verse 8. We are in Vayikra, the book of Leviticus, the Torah portion of Vayikra. The sons of Aaron the Kohanim shall arrange the pieces. Verse 8. Anyone may skin or cut. The Torah in this passage already said, the sons of Aaron the Kohanim shall bring the blood near. That is, they shall receive the blood in a vessel, and throw the blood on the Mizbeach. We learn from these words that from Kabbalah, receiving the blood, and on the avodah of an offering must be performed by a Kohen. Why then does our pasuk need to say, the sons of Aaron, the Kohanim, shall arrange the pieces? This teaches that although arranging the pieces of an offering on the fire must be done by a Kohen, the mitzvos mentioned just before this, skinning the animal and cutting it to pieces, may be done even by non-Kohen. No more than 4. Our pasuk says, the sons of Aaron, the Kohanim, shall arrange the pieces on the wood that is on the fire. Since we know that the sons of Aaron were Kohanim, why did the Torah have to say that they are the Kohanim? It is teaching us that the sons of Aaron, the ordinary Kohanim, must be wearing the 4 garments assigned to them. If an ordinary Kohen performs the avodah while wearing the 8 garments by a Kohen Gadol, the avodah is invalid, as though it were done by a non-Kohen. The head is detached. Shchita, kosher slaughtering, is performed by cutting the animal's throat. One source for this is our pasuk. Our pasuk says, the Kohanim shall arrange the pieces, the head and the fats, for the olah, burnt offering, on the wood that is on the fire. Once the Torah mentioned the pieces, why was it necessary to mention the head separately? Earlier, the Torah said, he shall skin the olah offering and cut it into its pieces. This seems to indicate that the pieces include only those parts that are skinned, but not the head, which was already separated before the animal was skinned. That is why our pasuk goes on to tell us that the head is also arranged on the fire altogether with the other pieces. Since our pasuk mentions the head separately because it was already disconnected from the body, we see that the animal's head had been severed from its body during its slaughter. That is, shchita is performed at the neck. Bald Kohen. Our pasuk says, the Kohen, the sons of Aaron, the Kohanim, shall arrange the pieces. Since we know that the sons of Aaron were Kohanim, why did the Torah have to highlight they are the Kohanim? Our pasuk refers to Kohanim in the plural, while the previous pasuk referred to the Kohen using the singular form. According to one opinion, this teaches us that even though a Kohen who is completely bald cannot serve as a Kohen Gadol, the singular Kohen, he is still, by Torah law, fit to be among the ordinary Kohanim who perform the avodah, the temple service. Team of 6. Every morning and afternoon, a tamid offering was offered in the Beis Hamikdash. This offering consisted of a lamb that was cut into 10 parts and completely burned on the Mizbeach. We learned from our pasuk that the service of bringing the parts to the Mizbeach was performed by 6 Kohanim. There seems to be a contradiction in the Pesukim. Regarding the olah burnt offering, our pasuk says, they shall arrange the pieces in the plural, indicating that many Kohanim should participate in burning the parts of the olah. But later, the Torah says, the Kohen, in singular form, shall arrange them in plural form, which implies that one Kohen should bring many pieces. The Torah is telling us that many Kohanim work together, and each Kohen carries 2 of the pieces. Thus, the 10 pieces required 5 Kohanim, and a 6th Kohen carried the intestines. According to another opinion, we learn the number 6 through a different approach. There is a principle that when a pasuk uses a plural with no specific number, we assume that it means the smallest plural number, which is 2. In our pasuk, there are 3 plural words. They shall arrange, the sons of Aaron, and the Kohanim, and each reference indicates the involvement of 2 Kohanim. The 3 plural terms teach that 6 Kohanim were involved. The head and the fats, covered with fat. Regarding the olah, the burnt offering, our pasuk says, the Kohanim shall arrange the pieces, the head and the fats, on the wood that is on the fire. Once the Torah mentioned the pieces, why was it necessary to mention the fats separately? This teaches that when the head is carried to the Mizbeach to be offered up to the Hashem, the neck, which had been cut and is bloody, should be covered by the fats as a show of respect for Hashem. First cut. The Kohen Gadol's bull is a chata, sin offering, that he must bring if he mistakenly transgresses a sin that is liable to keres, heavenly death. The bull is slaughtered in the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash. Its blood is sprinkled in the sanctuary. Its sacrificial parts are offered up on the Mizbeach, and then the rest of it is burned outside Yerushalayim. The bull is carried out of the city in one piece. However, before it is burned, it is cut up. We learn this from our Pesukim through a Gezerah Shava. Regarding the olah, burnt offering, our pasuk says, the Kohanim shall arrange the pieces, the head, and the fats. The next pasuk says, he shall wash its innards and its feet. The head and feet are also mentioned with regard to the Kohen Gadol's bull. Therefore, just as the olah is cut into pieces, so too the bull is cut into pieces on the wood that is on the fire, that is on the Mizbeach, learning from a bull to a lamb. Every morning and afternoon, a tamid daily offering was offered on the Beis Hamikdash. This offering consisted of a lamb that was cut into 10 parts and completely burned on the Mizbeach. We learn from our pasuk that the service of bringing its parts to the Mizbeach was performed by 6 Kohanim, but our pasuk is discussing a bull that is offered as an olah, not a lamb, which was the animal brought for the tamid. However, our pasuk says that the parts of the olah should be arranged on the wood that is on the fire, that is on the Mizbeach. It was not necessary to tell us this regarding the bull, since the previous pasuk just told us that the wood and the fire should be set up for this purpose. The extra words here teach us that the olah in our pasuk may be compared to the tamid, regarding which the Torah also mentions the Mizbeach, the wood and the fire. And the fire of the Mizbeach should be kept aflame on it. The phrase "kept aflame" refers to the burning stack of wood. Stay within bounds. Our pasuk says that the parts of the olah should be arranged on the wood that is on the fire. It is on the fire that is on the Mizbeach. It is quite obvious that the fire is on the Mizbeach. Rather, the pasuk is teaching that the wood that is on the fire must be entirely on the Mizbeach. None of it may protrude past the Mizbeach. No need to bring your own. Our pasuk says that the parts of a personal olah burnt offering should be arranged on the wood that is on the fire, that is on the Mizbeach. One opinion is that by mentioning the wood and the fire together with the Mizbeach, the pasuk teaches that just as the Mizbeach is paid for with communal funds, so too one's personal offering is burned with wood that was purchased with communal funds. According to another opinion, the pasuk teaches that just as the Mizbeach was built from materials that were never used before, so too the wood used for the fire on the Mizbeach must be new and never used before. Other options. Our pasuk says that the parts of the olah, the burnt offering, should be arranged on the wood that is on the fire, that is on the Mizbeach, which implies that the parts must be on top of the wood, and not the other way around. On the other hand, a different pasuk says that which the fire consumed of the olah on the Mizbeach, which implies that one may even place the olah directly on the Mizbeach, and the wood would be on top. Is that an option? Also, the Torah says regarding the levona, incense that was placed with the lechem hapanim, the showbread. And you shall place pure livona, literally, on each stack. I think livona is frankincense, or frankincense. According to one opinion, this does not mean that it was placed on top of the bread, but near the bread. Our pasuk also says, on the wood. May the pieces of the olah be placed near the wood instead of on top? The Gemara does not resolve these questions. Firewood. Our pasuk says that the parts of the olah should be arranged on the wood that is on the fire. Since the pasuk makes a connection between the wood and the fire, it teaches that we must use a type of wood that burns quickly to become fire, that is, live coals. All right, another verse, verse 9, Torah, Leviticus, Vayikra. He shall wash its innards and its feet with water, and the Kohen shall cause it all to go up in smoke on the Mizbeach, an olah offering, a fire offering, a satisfying aroma to Hashem. Verse 9, teachings of the Talmud on the Torah. And the Kohen shall cause it all to go up in smoke on the Mizbeach. Burning versus skinning and cutting. Earlier in our passage, the Torah already taught us that all avodas services from Kabbalah, receiving the blood, and on must be performed by a Kohen. Why then does our pasuk need to say, and the Kohen shall cause it all to go up in smoke on the Mizbeach? This teaches that although burning the pieces of an offering on the fire must be done by a Kohen, the mitzvos mentioned in the previous pasuk, skinning it and cutting it into pieces, may be done even by a non-Kohen. Shall we burn the bones? With regard to the olah burnt offering, our pasuk says, the Kohen shall cause it all to go up in smoke on the Mizbeach, which indicates that all of the animal is burned, including the wool on the heads of lambs, the beard of the he-goats, bones, sinews, horns, and hooves. However, another pasuk says, and you shall make your olah offerings, the meat and the blood, indicating that only meat and blood are to be placed upon the Mizbeach, the altar. One opinion is that as long as the wool on the heads of the lambs, the hair, and the beard of the he-goats, bones, sinews, horns, and hooves are still connected to the meat, they are burned along it. Once they become detached, they are not burned on the Mizbeach. In fact, even if they were already on the Mizbeach when they became detached, they are removed. According to another opinion, these other parts are burned on the Mizbeach, even when they are detached from the meat. The second pasuk, which seems to say that only the meat and blood are burned on the Mizbeach, teaches us that partially burned pieces of meat that fell off the Mizbeach are put back on it, but partially burned sinews and bones that fall off are not returned to the Mizbeach. Best offering. The world stands upon three things: Torah, offerings, and acts of kindness. Regarding these three pillars, the Navi says, for I, Hashem, desire kindness, not offering, and knowledge of Hashem, Torah, more than olos, burnt offerings. Since the pasuk speaks first of offerings in general, and then singles out the olah, it indicates that the olah is the most precious of all offerings. That is because, unlike other offerings, the olah is completely burned on the Mizbeach, as our pasuk says. The Kohen shall cause it all to go up in smoke on the Mizbeach. An olah offering, a fire offering, a satisfying aroma to Hashem. It's the thought that counts. Our pasuk refers to an olah, burnt offering, as a fire offering, a satisfying aroma to Hashem. The same expression is used in reference to a bird olah and to a mincha meal offering. This teaches that when one brings the best offering he can afford, no matter what type of offering it is, be it an animal, bird, or even flower, all are equally pleasing to Hashem, as long as the one bringing it has pure intentions. Good intentions. Our pasuk says that an olah, burnt offering, should be burned on the Mizbeach as an olah offering, a fire offering, a satisfying aroma to Hashem. Each word of this phrase teaches us one of the intentions that the person performing the avoda, temple service, should have in mind. An olah offering for the sake of an olah and not for any other type of offering. A fire offering with the intention of burning the sacrificial parts of the Mizbeach completely and not merely roasting them over the coals. An aroma with the intention of burning it in such a way that it gives off an aroma, that is, by placing the raw meat on the fire, and not first roasting it, and then placing it on the fire of the Mizbeach, the altar. Pleasing, with the intention of pleasing Hashem by fulfilling His will, to Hashem, for the sake of the Creator. Hashem is one. With regard to each type of offering, the Torah writes a satisfying aroma to Hashem. The same name of Hashem is used every time, and never any other name, so that there should be no room for a heretic to argue that one God commanded this type of offering and other gods commanded other types. All right. Verse 10. Torah. And if one's offering is from the flock, from the sheep, or from the goats, for an olah offering, he shall offer an unblemished male. And if one's offering is from the flock, from the sheep, or from the goats, for an olah offering, like sheep and goats. One of the rules the oral law uses to understand the Torah is parat u chalal u farat. When the Torah teaches a law in a specific case, then tells us a general law that includes that specific case, then repeats the specific case, the general law applies only in the specific case. Our pasuk is an example of the Torah's use of parat u chalal u farat in discussing which animals may be used for offerings, and it says, from the flock, from the sheep, or from the goats. The rule of parat u chalal u farat teaches that only animals that are similar to sheep and goats may be used as offerings. 3 rejects. Regarding the olah offering, our pasuk begins, and if one's offering is from the flock, from the sheep, or from the goats, the word from indicates a limitation, that only some of the animal species may be used, not all. It appears 3 times in our pasuk, teaching that even if an animal is from an acceptable species, there are 3 conditions that can disqualify it as an offering: if it is old, sick, or foul-smelling. What to do with leftovers? If money or an animal was set aside for a Pesach offering and it was not used, it is considered leftovers of a Pesach, and the money or animal is used for a Shalomim, peace offering, instead. We learn this from the pasuk regarding Shalomim that says, if his offering is from the flock, a Shalomim offering to Hashem. An offering from the flock refers to the Pesach offering, which may be brought only from the flock, sheep and goats, and not cattle. The pasuk continues and repeats, a Shalomim offering to Hashem, to teach that the leftovers of a Pesach are to be used as a Shalomim, a peace offering. On the other hand, our pasuk also says, and if one's offering is from the flock, from the sheep, or from the goats, and then repeats, for an olah offering. This would seem to say that the leftover of a Pesach should be used for an olah, a burnt offering. However, both a Pesach and a Shalomim are eaten by the person who brings them, while an olah is completely burned on the Mizbeach. Since these offerings are similar to the Shalomim, it is logical to transfer the leftovers of the Pesach to a Shalomim. Bald and distinct. Regarding the olah offering, our pasuk begins, and if one's offering is from the flock, the word from indicates that only some of the flock animals may be used, but not all. We are taught that this excludes animals that are halak. The word halak can be translated as smooth, an animal that was shorn. However, another teaching states that an animal that is completely shorn is considered unblemished and is fit for an offering. Therefore, we must understand the word halak in the first teaching to mean separate or distinct. The pasuk is excluding animals that the Torah distinguished as being disqualified for an offering, such as an animal that had relations with a human, or that was used or set aside for idolatry. Verse 11, Torah. He shall slaughter it at the northern side of the Mizbeach before Hashem, and the sons of Aaron, the Kohanim, shall throw its blood on the Mizbeach all around. Verse 11. He shall slaughter it at the northern side of the Mizbeach before Hashem, all on the south. The kior, the laver, was a large copper vessel in the Beis Hamikdash, which was filled with water. This water was used by the Kohanim to wash their hands and feet each day before beginning the avodah, the service. There is a disagreement regarding exactly where in the courtyard the Mizbeach was positioned. Regarding the Olah offering, our pasuk says, "He shall slaughter it at the side of the Mizbeach, the altar, to the north, with the letter He at the end of the word meaning to." According to one opinion, by saying to the north rather than just north, the Torah is teaching us precisely where the Mizbeach stood. The northern half of the courtyard begins at the wall of the Mizbeach. That is, the Mizbeach stood entirely on the southern side of the courtyard, with its northern wall at the midpoint. According to another opinion, the Torah wrote to relate it to the word empty, and it is telling us that the entire north side of the courtyard must be empty of vessels. Therefore, the entire Mizbeach and the Kior, the laver, as well, stood entirely in the south half of the courtyard. Olah in the north. Our pasuk says that when one brings a sheep or goat as an olah, burnt offering, he shall slaughter it at the northern side of the Mizbeach. It must be slaughtered on the north side of the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash, since the previous pasuk, which begins our passage, starts with the letter Vav, which means and if one's olah offering is from the flock. The Torah is connecting this passage to the previous discussion, which deals with an olah from cattle. We therefore know that an olah from cattle must also be brought on the north side. The slaughter, not the slaughterer. Our pasuk says, "He shall slaughter it," at the northern side of the Mizbeach. The word "it" indicates that only it, the animal, must be on the northern side of the courtyard when it is slaughtered. A person performing the slaughter may stand on the northern side and reach his hand to the southern side and reach his hand to the north side to slaughter the animal. The southern face. The Mizbeach altar in the courtyard of the Mishkan featured a long access ramp, which was placed at the front or the entrance of the Mizbeach. But which side was the front? Our pasuk says, "He shall slaughter it at the thigh side of the Mizbeach in the north." When a person lies down, his thighs, his legs, and his face are in opposite directions. If his legs point to the north, then his face is toward the south. Since the thigh of the Mizbeach is on the north, its face or entrance is on the south. North before Hashem. The term Bama refers to any altar other than the Mizbeach in the Mishkan and in the Beis Hamikdash. During most of Jewish history, it was forbidden to offer offerings on a Bama. However, there were short periods of time when it was permitted, specifically the 14 years during which the people were conquering the land and the Mishkan was temporarily set up in Gilgal, and the 57 years between the destruction of Mishkan Shiloh and the building of the Beis Hamikdash, when the Mishkan stood first in Nov and then in Givon. During these time periods, the public communal altar in the Mishkan was known as a Bama Gedola, and a private altar was known as a Bama Ketana. Our pasuk says, "He shall slaughter it, the olah, burnt offering, at the northern side of the Mizbeach, before Hashem." The phrase "before Hashem" indicates that only an offering that is brought before Hashem, that is, in the Mishkan or the Beis Hamikdash, must be slaughtered north of the Mizbeach, but not an offering that is brought at a private Bama. And the sons of Aaron, the Kohanim, shall throw its blood on the Mizbeach all around, over the base or Yesod, or the base or Yesod of the Mizbeach altar was a protrusion at the bottom. In the Beis Hamikdash, it went along the entire north and west sides of the Mizbeach, and one amma on the east and the south sides. All right. The Torah says that after applying blood to the Mizbeach, the remaining blood of a chata sin offering should be poured onto the yesod of the Mizbeach, of the olah burnt offering. This teaches that when the blood of an olah is thrown on the corners of the Mizbeach wall, it must be on an area of the wall that has a yesod at the bottom. Through a gezerah shava from our pasuk, we learn that the same rule applies to the blood of other offerings as well. Regarding the olah, our pasuk says, "The Kohanim shall throw its blood on the Mizbeach throwing the blood is also mentioned with regard to other offerings. In the pasuk, their blood shall you throw upon the Mizbeach. Just as the blood of an olah must be thrown above an area that has the yesod, so too the blood of other offerings must be thrown against the wall in an area that has the yesod. Just right. The Torah says that on the final day of a Metzorah's purification process, he shall bring a log of oil, and the Kohen shall dip his right forefinger into the oil that is in the left palm, and he shall sprinkle from the oil with his finger 7 times before Hashem. According to one opinion, this teaches that wherever the Torah mentions a form of the word Kohen or the word finger with regard to an avodah, temple service, that, like the application of the oil on the Metzorah, is essential for atonement, it means the right hand or forefinger must be used. Our pasuk says, the Kohanim shall throw its blood on the Mizbeach, on the altar. Since the word Kohanim is used in connection with throwing the blood of the olah burnt offering on the Mizbeach, which is essential for the atonement, we learn that the Kohen must perform this avodah with his right hand. However, there is another opinion that the teaching from a Metzorah applies only when the word finger appears, as in the pasuk that discusses the Metzorah. According to this opinion, since our pasuk mentions only Kohen, but not finger, the avodah of throwing the blood is valid even if the Kohen did it with his left hand. Verse 12, Torah. He shall cut it into its pieces, its head and its fats. The Kohen shall arrange them on the wood that is on the fire that is on the Mizbeach. Its head and its fats the Kohen shall arrange. Head first. Our pasuk says, he shall cut it, the olah burnt offering, into its pieces, its head and its fat, mentioning the head and fat separately from the other pieces. The very next words are, the Kohen shall arrange them on the wood that is on the fire that is on the Mizbeach. This teaches that the head and the fats are the first parts to be placed upon the Mizbeach. Don't leave out the head. The Torah says, he shall skin the olah offering and cut it into its pieces. This seems to indicate that the pieces includes only those parts that are skinned, but not the head, which was already cut off before the animal was skinned. It is suggested that our pasuk goes on to say, he shall cut it into its pieces, its head and its fats. The Kohen shall arrange them, to tell us that the head is also arranged on the fire together with the other pieces. Verse 13, Torah. He shall wash the innards and the feet in the water. The Kohen shall bring it all and cause it to go up in smoke on the Mizbeach. It is an olah offering, a fire offering, a satisfying aroma to Hashem. He shall wash the innards and the feet in water, washing the kior water. The kior was a large copper vessel in the Beis Hamikdash, which was filled with water. This water was used by the Kohanim to wash their hands and feet each day, before beginning the avodah, the service. Our pasuk says that before placing the olah offering on the Mizbeach to be burned, he shall wash the innards and the feet with water. We are taught that the word with water in this pasuk tells us that one may not use wine or water mixed with wine to wash the innards, but one may use other water, even water not from a living spring. The teaching then concludes with an ambiguous statement, and it is a kal vachomer, logical argument, that the water of the kior may be used. This last statement would seem to mean that since spring water is required for a kior, the kior water may surely be used for washing the innards, which does not require spring water. However, we are taught that in fact spring water is not required for the kior. It may be filled with ordinary water. That being the case, what is meant by it is a kal vachomer, that the water of the kior may be used? A logical argument. The logical argument, the kal vachomer, is that since we may use even unsanctified water to wash the innards, surely the water of the kior, which is sanctified, may be used for this purpose. The Kohen shall bring it all and cause it to go up in smoke on the Mizbeach. Bring it all. Our pasuk says, the Kohen shall bring it all and cause it to go up in smoke on the Mizbeach, the altar. The word bring it refers to the act of carrying the pieces from the area where the offering is cut up to the ramp of the Mizbeach. It is an olah offering for the sake of an olah. For an animal offering has 4 essential blood services: slaughtering, catching the blood in a holy vessel, bringing the blood to the Mizbeach, the altar, and applying the blood to the Mizbeach. All the essential services of an olah burnt offering should be performed with the intent that this is an olah. According to one opinion, if any are done for the sake of a different type of offering, the olah becomes disqualified. It was suggested that our pasuk is the basis for this opinion. After instructing us to burn the pieces of the olah, the burnt offering, our pasuk says, "It is an olah offering." The word "it is an olah" would teach that it must remain an olah throughout the process. If the Kohen intended that the service was for the sake of a different type of offering, the olah becomes disqualified. All right, and that is the end of the first Aliyah, the first Torah reading of Vayikra, a portion of Vayikra with the teachings of the Talmud. All right, Laila Tov, Mishpachim.